I find it particularly interesting and the notable uh, kind of party crossovers, the yeses and the nos. And I think the Cameron, you had this. Let me see if I can bring up that website. So the notable
While you're doing that for our
yay
viewers, I'll try to
nays.
see if I can do this on the fly. Uh,
Yeah.
sometimes it's
So,
not great.
oh, you can just mention because there's four, right? There's two
That's right.
Democrats. So the key ones were Padilla from California. He flipped to a yes, broke with kind of the Democratic consensus. You can see it on the left of the of the chamber diagram there. You've got a lot of blue defections, right? The shaded squares are the yays. This on the left-right spectrum, right? But the nays were the Democrat, like we're coming from the Democratic coalition. Um, so the key flips, two of them. Number one, Cory Booker from New Jersey, kind of legacy senator, and then Alex Padilla. Padilla is in a unique situation. He was a Gavin Newsom appointee uh, for, I want to say, was it Dianne Feinstein when she was kind of ushered out of the Senate could no longer fulfill her duties. Uh, it's kind of looking now like Padilla's got an interesting situation in front of him for 2026, 2028. What happens with Gavin Newsom's political career? He's either going to run for president or or he'll want this Senate seat that Padilla's actually sitting in that he appointed him to. So Padilla has to kind of carve out some name recognition, build up a base that he never had, right? It was like, what's the goal of every politician, right? Well, it's to extend your career, um, and and make some hay for most of them while the going is good. So that one from Padilla, I think, is interesting on the flip. Now, the two nays from the Republicans who broke with their coalition, number one, Rand Paul is the probably the most interesting. I'll get into that second.
Yeah.
Josh Hawley from Missouri is first. Try to like find a reason. Why would Josh Hawley be a nay here and break from the Republican coalition? The only thing I can find to on the dive deep on that is his father is, kind of a legacy banking executive, not JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo City, like big Bank of America, big bank. It's regional bank. And I would say the most threatened entities here from what's going on with stablecoins and kind of a uh, ledger-based IOU, public ledger-based IOU, tokenized, immutable, all that stuff. Um, what is that most threatened? I think obviously it's the credit-based banking model, fractional reserve. But when you look at the regional banks, right, usually they're the most pure play, kind of dependent on that credit banking model. Um, you don't have investment banking, you don't have payments, merchant banking, other income streams, in the fiat system as Bitcoiners have labeled it. And so if you're just entirely based on or dependent on deposit based, funding into, loan creation, you know, 535 banking, as it used to be called, right? Or no, no, sorry, 353 banking, borrow at three, lend at five on the golf course by three. If that's kind of well, that's been dead for 50, 60 years and dying. But if that's the family business and you think this is a threat, I think, maybe Josh Hawley represents a holdover for that coalition. I don't think that has any lasting, political movement, like trying to see, uh, the how this plays out over the longer term, 5 years, 10 years. I don't think that coalition will, it's not gathering momentum. But what maybe is, I think, the nay that Rand Paul represents, right? If we dive deep on Rand Paul, obvious son of Ron Paul, gold advocate, probably the hardest, staunchest holdout resistant to fractional reserve banking on an a full credit money standard, right? Without any hard backing reserves behind the system. I think, Rand Paul's nay seems like it's coming from a different ideological place. Um, I don't think there's that much, pragmatism behind this vote. He doesn't have a coalition to go with him. This seems like a thing to me. I just read a book. I just finished a book. Most recent on my reading list was Barbara Tuchman's The March of Folly, and it's got a chapter in it, or not even a chapter, a whole section on this, brick of a book about the Vietnam War. And the thing you'd highlight there, or I'd highlight there were two senators who were just throughout the entire experience of Vietnam, they were hard nosed. Like they saw what was coming, and the whole Vietnam situation developed over 19 years and progressively got worse. Um, I think Rand Paul, where he stands ideologically, what he represents in his no, why he doesn't want to see the Genius Act, because essentially what this is just porting over the same old system onto this new crypto rails. Um, I think that's what's behind his no. So it seems more like, in my perspective, he's on the right wave, coming from the right place, and I think the Bitcoin movement, the actual, Bitcoiners who um, appreciate Bitcoin for what it is, the public trustless ledger money, the only solution, decentralized solution to the Byzantine generals problem. I think that's what that wave represents. So that's just something I find or found interesting in this Genius Act passage.
That's
And
like
this is an environment where there's a big vote coming up on OBBBA, the one big beautiful bill, and it's very clear. This is you got to whip the votes, right? And Rand Paul's vote here, you're like, all right, it doesn't seem like it was for sale, right? Which also opens him up to what's the next step to if his vote is needed. Well, if you can't win it by horse trading, well, then you got to get it by other means. So you can kind of do the math there and figure that one out. But I think there is a broader kind of social wave behind that nay vote that Rand Paul represents going against his coalition.